Alright, everybody, this is where we go into the kits. Because the reveals and stuff just happened there about 10 minutes ago, so we're going to have a look at them. Firstly, obviously, going to be starting up with Trunks and Gohan because they were revealed first, then we get into Shillette afterwards. But firstly, what do we have? Other than the fact that they're red and purple. Let's see here, we start off with Trunks and into Gohan, and they do Blast Attack. I am not surprised with a wee bit of extra strike damage. Okay, pretty good. Although, why Blast Attack, considering that the majority of game originals, I think, is strike based, even though you can get Shallot into a blast based build, but that's not the point. Moving on here, what do we have? Damage, extra 20%, not too bad. Extra 20% on the blast, not too bad. And if it's enhanced, you get 60% with Nullify Endurance and cancels buff effects. Okay, that's very good. Let's see, green card, enemy health restoration and all damage received. Pretty good, that's very good actually. Although there's no cover null on that, so that is a bit of an issue. But we did see in his kit, if you did watch the reveals that, or one video, you would see me questioning that if their key's about 30, well then they get infinite cover null basically. Sure, we'll see what happens. Switch to Gohan, one or few, 1 if 3 or fewer, 15 health, key, overdrive, and enhanced special stuff. Okay, 360 and 310. So if I'm not mistaken, we've already gapped the other two, because that's a big number. If I'm not mistaken, that is a big number. So if I just have a quick look to see, right, we got ourselves Gogeta, right? If I get his normal stats, sorry, can't speak, 360 and 300. So his damage is the same, but the guard is by extra 10%. Whereas if I go for Broly, it should be, being the quest, being the key thing here, be the same. And no, actually less on both respects. Interesting. So the same damage as Gogeta, but a higher guard. Okay, so that's very interesting. I have to say, very interesting. But sure, we'll continue going into the kit. On battlefield entry, extra card, switch gauge 15 and 30. Okay, so basically you can. On third use, you get an extra card, extra key. Again, okay, so no, that is just basically infinite. If you got infinite key, okay, that's okay. Sure, we'll call that a fairly even case. Sure, I'll say nothing on that part. Destroys the enemy card when hit, seals the rush, and card draw speed by 2 for 10 counts. That's a lot. And it's shared between Trunks and Gohan. You get 25% health if health is lower, which that's not a lot. That's just the one base thing, which doesn't make sense. But sure, blast for both of them. Not surprising, I think. Confrontation gauge. Share between them. Get extra Dragon Balls, 40 twice. And attribute upgrades or downgrades with ally health. Pretty good. And then the Legends Action load the high, get special move. That's fair enough. And now Gohan. The best part about him. Okay, so it's basically going to be the same until we get to, if I'm not mistaken, okay, no, it's just basically the same thing. That's all the same thing. Combo, okay, so his is strike, but it's basically the same thing. I have nothing of new. Just switch the cover changes. Okay, so you know what? Not bad. And on Legends Action, he just nullifies endurance just there. So in other words, goodbye any green or yellow characters, which is very good. I will say that it's very good, because obviously endurance is a very high thing these days. So if I was to do calculating damage, well, let's see, adding on 310, there's 390 already. Then after that, there's nothing of worth in terms of actual damage during this part. Here, again, nothing of extra damage. Here, nothing of extra damage. He just gets special moves, so that's 60 if you get enhanced. And then these here. So let's just say you use 5 cards, so that's another 100. Because you most certainly will, but I would say that's conservative. Because you could get 6, but we'll say 100, so that's, what, 490? In all honesty, I feel like that's, for whatever reason, not a lot. That's 490 if you get the full 80%. And 5 cards off. And then add on 60 if you have no one that cancels buff effects. or attribute upgrades. Well, then that's another 60 on top of it. So I mean, that's 550 for blue card and 490, which in fairness I think is actually quite average, but I was expecting somewhat more, but I guess they're more of a utility character than they are actual like damage some form, but they do get a lot of stuff. So they, I forgot actually, funny enough, if you swap in with them, they'll just draw a card with a green card and three or fewer I think, or somewhere. On the third card, sorry, you get an extra card. So basically you could get 6, making an extra 20%, so you can get yourself up to the 510, so I'm in 570 range, so not bad, very good, I have to say. But otherwise, there's nothing really. But as I thought, the cover null is basically just infinite if you've got 30 or more key. Which, I mean, in fairness, with the amount of cover changes these characters have these days, I'm not surprised. That's very good, so I'll call that balanced enough. Now we're on to Shalette, and for whatever reason, his thing is more pixelated than a fucking World War I's fucking found footage or security camera in a bank. Don't ask me why, I don't know what happened there either. But yeah, his is green, which I'm very concerned with, because why green of all colours? You could have easily had made him purple. I'm just saying, because you need an answer to Broly, and green isn't an answer. But sure, here, I'm not the one developing the game. And he is very blast-based. So he can work with Gogeta in some regard. But let's see here. Enemy damage received by 15% for both of them. Pretty good. And 50% just right off rip, although it can be cancelled. And it gets a chance to do any of these lot here if you've got like 1 to 3 extra cards removed. Whether or not it counts for the 4th one is a different question, considering there's 4 things here. But I guess if you're using it, you are technically getting rid of it, but it's not destroying it. So I'd say at most you get 3 of them. Although preferably this here is like the most broken. With this one up here being the second most broken. I'm just saying. If these two are the most broken things there, well then you've done something wrong. Extra damage for once he actually has something like that. Extra card. Special move. Alright, pretty good. And ultimate. Nullifies endurance and seals main for 5 counts and ally count up 3. Alright, pretty good. Let's see here. Overdrive charge gauge 50 for 20 counts uncancelable on the main. Alright, not too bad. 25 counts, not too bad. Oh. Now, yes, he does have endurance. But 290 and 340? The same damage as Broly, but worse guard? I mean, yes. No, he doesn't. He gets extra damage there. He better have something better later on in his kit. Yes, he does give allies 20% extra, but that's not the point. And he does have endurance, and he does nullify them 3 times, but still. Unique ability, let's see. Cover null for 5 counts. Card key 40. 1 card, draw speed. Right, fair enough. On battle change, on area change, when energy switches. 30 damage, he gets extra damage. So I mean, he does ramp up damage in some regard. And if it's elements disadvantage, switch to. Okay, so unless the fact that he just constantly, if he constantly switches to light every time, we'll say a purple unit comes into play, well then, that's, in fairness, broken. So like you get Super Vegito, he'll combo you for a good bit, but then if, God forbid, you're on Daima 3 coup, yeah, he comes in, he stays in light then, or he switches from the green after he switched back from light to light again. That's broken. That's fair. I can take that. Buff effects, ultimate, and rise and rush, very good. 100% will take that. And then switches to light to get nullification on element disadvantage. Key starts at 25, draw special arts, it gets 30, so 60 right off rip. Card draw speed, uncancelable, very good, so we got double health. Damage card for 10 counts if hit by enemy arts twice. Though, so, and Legends action low to high. Extra key, extra gauge. Yeah, no, I'm very in contention if he's any good. But sure, maybe his damage might make it up, we'll see here, right? So we'll start with the damage. nothing down because if we get to 60, so after switches he gets 60, so we'll say a 60 as a baseline, right, to get the full damage out of it away. So let's see, 60 gets 20 there if element disadvantage. So we'll say for the 10 counts he gets 80. Afterwards he gets another 30, so that's 110. So then after that, so that is then adding up to 450. And then you give him, on the green card, he gets another 30. That's 480. Then adding on the special move, that's 530. But with guard penetration at that damage, that's very good. And then the damage received obviously will ramp up his damage even further. But it is less than Trunks and Gohan. Which, am I really surprised at this point? Fuck no. Like, yes, I think the thing that's carrying him is the light switching. But even then, that's not doing him any wonders. If you know what I mean. So, like, because again, it's only 5 counts. So he's not staying there for a long amount of time. So, like, the free-to-play red Giblet that was able to switch to dark. So basically it comes type advantage against everything. He does that for an extensive period of times, like 30 counts, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't think... I am really in contention for if he's good or not, because I really don't know. Like, yes, his unique gauge does get charged up quite a bit in some regard. And, I mean... Well, say for his damage card he gets 20 there, then adding that onto the 290, I think, 290, so that's 310, that's already on the level of Trunks and Gohan. And then after that, I don't actually think there's anything else. Yeah, no, there's nothing else, it's just adding on that extra bit, it just makes no sense. So I don't know, I'm on the fence, because again, this is only kit reading, not actually in-game play. So yeah, I don't think, for whatever reason, it's enough. But again, I could be wrong. But Trunks and Gohan don't feel like too much. But again, I could just be reading it wrong. And Shalette seems a tad bit underwhelming in some form. Because again, his light switching is what's carrying him. But again, that's just me. And I could be wrong. Because for all I know, his in-game performance could actually outpace him. But that's just my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I should see us all in the next one.